everybody and welcome back to another video. My name is NEONshe. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to be talking about my brand new single, Seasons, which is out now. Thank you so much to everybody who has listened to it. I am so proud of this single. It might be one of my favourites to date, and I'm really excited to just tell you a bit behind the song. Before we begin though, I think it's important for me to just put out there that the topics that I might be talking about are potentially a little triggering. I'm going to talk about mental health disorders, so if you are triggered by that kind of thing, maybe consider not watching this one. But I really appreciate everybody who will listen to my story, and anyone who relates to it, I'm so grateful to have you here. So with that being said, let's get straight into the video. What inspired you to write Seasons, and how does it reflect your personal experiences? I wrote Seasons a really long time ago. I think I was 20 years old, 19, 20 years old, when I was a university student. So actually it's not that long ago, like we're not talking decades, but like it feels like a really long time ago. I wrote this song when I was in recovery for an eating disorder, and I don't think I've talked about this too much. I haven't really been in a place where I've felt like I can talk about it. It was a huge part of my life, like it impacted me for many years, many decades in fact. I basically wrote this song as a farewell to my eating disorder and letting go of those ties and everything attached to the eating disorder, which included some situations, some people, kind of indirectly, but like within the same era of my life. And so I was writing this song as a moving on from that, because it impacted my life so much. I felt like I had a lot to release stress-wise, and as you probably know by now if you've heard any other interviews, and I talk about this a lot, how I release stress through music, and I always have done, because it was like the only thing that I had to release stress when I was younger. So music was always the outlet of just allowing me freedom through words. Seasons reflects my personal experience on a very deep level. You may not know when you listen to this song that it's about an eating disorder, because I disguised it as a love song. And in a way, eating disorders are kind of like a toxic relationship. Like, you hold on to them and you feel like you need to have it, and you feel like you need to act a certain way in order to just get through the day, and you have this little voice in your head just telling you like all this horrible stuff about you, just like a verbally abusive partner might do. So for me, Seasons was my release of all of that. Can you share the story behind your lyrics, especially the lines, "I'm like a bird as free as the wind," and "but that's what the seasons do and I'm better off without you"? "I'm like a bird as free as the wind" was about being in therapy and kind of being at the end of therapy, I guess, when I was in CBT doing very deep work, very intense for like a good few months, and when I came out the other side of that, it was a freedom that I don't know if I've ever had. And so I'm like a bird as free as the wind is a reflection of that, saying like, I am free and I have the choice to go where I want in my life now, and I'm not held down by this horrible thing that was like keeping me held in this really horrible place for such a long time. But that's what the seasons do, and I'm better off without you. It's talking about letting go of control, because ultimately that's what, for me, the eating disorder was. It was just a need for control, because I had none in my life. I have felt like I had no control over my life for a very long time. Eventually, what comes down has to go up, and what goes up has to come down. And so that's kind of just talking about the seasons of life. And obviously, I'm better off without you is saying I'm better off without the eating disorder. I'm better off without all of that chaos in my life. So coming to the other side of it was so freeing. And so I'm like, a bird as free as the wind is just about that, and I'm better off without you is saying goodbye. It's a goodbye song. How does Seasons fit into the overall theme of your upcoming album? The album is called Butterfly. It's about the changing, the transformation of me as a human. Seasons is quite early on in the album because I've got it in order of things, the way things happen. So that's the whole thing that Butterfly represents, and I hope that it will relate to others as well because of the generalization of the song. You recorded Seasons in England and are promoting it in Kyoto. How do these two places influence your music and artistic vision? I am heavily inspired by J-pop music and just electronic music within the J-pop scene. I actually, because I wrote Seasons such a long time ago, I wrote it originally on the piano, and it was a really beautiful ballad, and I recorded it as a kind of just a pop song with some guitar. The whole album has been influenced by the music that I love in Japan, but the story comes from England. So obviously the lyrics are in English, and I suppose I like merging the two because I feel like my life is merged like that. You know, I'm a British person, but yet I'm so deeply within the Japanese culture, and I love that. I love the Japanese culture, and I love this kimono that I'm wearing right now. Like, there's so much beauty in Japanese culture that I'm so grateful to be part of, and I really hope that it shines through in my songs as well. The imagery in Seasons is quite vivid, like kaleidoscope eyes. How did you come up with such unique visual metaphors? Well, actually, I didn't come up with that one. That one was of the Beatles. I love the Beatles. I personally have listened to their music for a very, very big portion of my life, if not all of my life, and Kaleidoscope Eyes is just such a interesting lyric. I loved it. From my perspective, Kaleidoscope Eyes represents the idea that you have to look at life through sometimes a bit of an odd lens, a different perspective, and sometimes those perspectives are necessary to heal. To view something through kaleidoscope eyes, it's like everything's distorted, right? Everything is unusual and it's not normal. And so for me, changing all my perspectives from what I thought was, but actually wasn't. It was at the time, but it was distorted, and the perspective now was much more clear, even though it was so different. So I hope that makes sense. I personally loved that lyric in the Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, but it wasn't a direct copy because for me the meaning is totally different. It's more about seeing life through a different lens, maybe a little delusional, but actually that's what brings me joy, and you know, I will choose joy over anything. How did you approach the production of Seasons? Were there any specific sounds or instruments that you wanted to include to capture the essence of the song? So yeah, when I recorded it originally, it was very like kind of waltzy, and so I wanted to scrap that. I wanted to make it a bit more fun and dancey. As you know, that's just how I like to make my music. I love a good dance track. So that's what I did with Seasons. I kept it in 3/time. It just feels much more like pushed on certain beats rather than da, 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 da 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 da. It's more like a da 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 da. I don't know how to describe it. Like it's just it's a totally different vibe from before. I wanted to take certain elements of the previous recording, like there were certain pads that I really liked and certain arpeggios. It was like a da da da, and that just repeated over and over, and I really loved that. I love the way that feels inspiring, and I kind of use that a lot in my music. Like I try not to rinse and repeat too much, but like yeah, I love that. So there were things that I wanted to capture from the previous recording and make it fresh again, but ultimately my sound has evolved a lot over the years, and creating NEONshe, I really wanted to stick to a vibe that I knew that I loved, and not try and make something because I think someone else would like it. I was taking a lot of advice from a lot of different people for many years during my music, and I don't really do that anymore because I found that I look back and regret a lot, and I just wish I'd have done things differently. But at the same time, that's just how it was at the time, so I don't actually have regrets. It was just in that moment I did. Nowadays I'm just kind of like, okay, well, what can I learn from that? And the lesson is I should just do what I want to do and do what makes me happy, regardless of what anybody else thinks. And I think that should translate to every area of your life, not just music, but it should especially translate into music and art and your personal creativity. So Seasons is now a version that I really, really, really love. So yeah, that's what I have to say on that, I think. How has your journey as an artist evolved from your previous releases to Seasons? Well, I think I just talked about that a lot, like, not taking the opinions of others and molding that into your own sounds to try and impress them and seek validation. Yeah, we don't do that anymore, sis. We don't have time for that, so that's gone. Bye-bye. Gone with the Seasons. So that's a huge part of the evolution, but also creating Seasons now when I'm no longer like really struggling with an eating disorder. The difference now is that I'm in a place where I'm writing from a place of love. So I think the music translates from a place of love. It doesn't sound sad. I feel like it sounds happy, and it feels like how I feel right now, which is a really healthy version of myself, which is great, and I'm really proud of myself for that. When I wrote it in the past, yeah, that was a tough time, and I think it did reflect in the songs, and I am a completely different person now to when I wrote that song originally. Like, think complete 180 flip. I'm no longer really insecure about my body, and in fact I love my body, and I love celebrating bodies by using fashion to accentuate certain features, and dressing as brightly as I would love to, and wearing the things that I want to, rather than like trying to hype myself. Like, girl, like, who has time for that? Not me. I love myself, I celebrate myself, and that is the evolution of that song. What message do you hope your listeners take away from Seasons? Guys, I just want you to feel like you're not alone, basically. Like, when I write music, I am writing it for myself, definitely. For Seasons, when I wrote it, it was just for total healing of myself. And then when I release the music, it's like me letting go. It's like my child I'm setting free into the big world by themselves, and because of that, it's almost like a gift to anyone who needs it, and a gift to you, my listener and my rainbow baby. I'm so grateful to anyone who hears my song. But ultimately, I hope that if you have ever had a mental health issue, if you've ever had an eating disorder, or just something where you've had to go through a transformation and let go, like get some help and learn your negative patterns and get through that, like that is so tough, guys. Like, that is so hard to do, and if you got through it, like, that is so badass. That's totally badass. I hope that the message of Seasons can just uplift anyone who is maybe going through it or went through something like that. That song is for you now. Like, that song is no longer for me, because I am through it and I am so grateful, and I look back on that song and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so grateful that my life is the way it is now. But maybe you haven't, and so Seasons can help you through it. I really hope so. How do you balance the personal and universal elements of your songwriting, especially in Seasons? I think I mentioned this already, but like, for me, Seasons is written as a love song. It's a love song to my toxic relationship with eating, and I wrote it generally so that when I perform it live, other people can like take a more universal message. I've got the personal meaning for myself, but when I listen to songs, of course I listen to the music a lot, like I analyze, and that is like a music curse. A musician curse, like you just analyze constantly. But I really love lyrics. I listen to people's lyrics very deeply, so I think that's why I'm so precious about my own lyrics. I want to create lyrics that I imagine other people will listen to and think, oh, like that relates to me, like I'm like that, or I am going through that, and they can take the meaning and create their own bond with it, because music is a very, very personal thing to the creator and to the listener, allowing it to be understood by others in a way that inspires them and just makes them feel something that they need to feel. How do your life experiences in Japan influence your music? And are there any specific cultural elements that found their way into Seasons? Well, I think from a music perspective, probably not. I mean, other than the fact that it's like taking inspiration from J-pop, but I do think it's an electronic track, you know, it's an electronic dance track made in England. I feel more so the visuals have been taken from Japanese culture. I love spring in Japan. I love the cherry seasons. We've just had it and I really miss it. I would say it's my favourite season visually, other than autumn. I love autumn as well, but you know, also cherry blossoms are like the universal thing you think of when you think of Japan. You think, oh, cherry blossoms, or I do anyway. So I thought, okay, well, this song is called Seasons. I can work with that to create a really beautiful visual art for that, and so that's why I have myself as like an anime character with the Japanese countryside and the cherry blossoms behind me, and also just wearing a kimono. I love wearing kimonos. I would just wear them every day if I could. I'm not even kidding, like I love them so much. So I wanted to incorporate that, and I want to incorporate it into my music much more, because I just really enjoy it. As I said at the start of the video, I feel very blessed to be in this situation where I get to live this Japanese life as a British person. I know that it's very rare, and I'm in a very blessed situation, and so I want to appreciate that as much as possible, and I will continue to do that through my music. Oh, this is a good one. How do you use your alter ego NEONshe to channel your creativity and convey the themes in Seasons? If you've read chapter 3, thank you so much to anybody who has bought it. Only on Bandcamp when you buy the Seasons EP. That is all of the singles released so far. The chapter 3 of my book, The Star Mindset, and chapter 3 talks all about the alter ego, which is NEONshe. And NEONshe is me. She is an extension of who I am, but she is the best version of myself. I have been channeling NEONshe for many years of my life without really realizing that she was NEONshe before NEONshe was even created, because I used to pretend like I was confident. I used to pretend that everyone would recognize me for my music, and I used to pretend about having certain aspects of my personality and holding myself in a certain way to become more confident and more happy. And I used to visualize it all the time, like creating vision boards and stuff like that. Eventually I just became that. So I channel NEONshe in those moments, and I think, what would NEONshe do? NEONshe is confident. Just take a few breaths. I think, okay, I'm gonna channel NEONshe now. I'm gonna become NEONshe. I think having an alter ego is a really good thing to do alongside other things. So I really recommend that you buy the chapter 3, and then you can read all about that. And there's like a self-assessment at the end and some journaling exercises. So that's really cool if anybody's interested in that. I worked really hard, and I think it will benefit a lot of people. What challenges did you face while creating Seasons, and how did you overcome them? As I said, at the time I was in therapy for an eating disorder. I had a lot of insecurity, and I was learning a lot about myself. I was also letting go of certain people and realizing what was good for me. I had spent a lot of my time just doing what anybody else told me to do. Not anybody else, but like specific people, and not really having my own mind, and just allowing myself to be molded, and such a people pleaser. And Seasons was kind of the first time in my life that I started questioning all of that, and I thought, like, well, who am I? And I had some friends who helped me realize my own worth. That was like the first time in my life that I actually had friends who weren't like putting me down or like being competitive, or I know that sounds like really sad, but like genuinely like close friends. I mean, I had many people in my life who I think were genuinely very lovely, but I wasn't like super close with them, and the close people in my life were not great friends. So I went through a lot of challenges, and I think going into therapy really helped me to gain confidence and question my own self-worth, and actually just start seeing myself as an individual who doesn't have to be a doormat, and like thinking about myself for once, like what is good for me. And at that time it was learning how to see food in a healthy way, and through that I gained a lot of confidence. And it's so liberating when you have control over your own life and you're no longer fighting or feeling like a fish out of water. How does Seasons compare to your previous singles in terms of style and message? So, okay, let's think about this. So Neon was about being bullied and being on the other side of that. So I guess it's a different topic within mental health. And then Kyoto is just a beautiful message about like going to a new place and being like, what lies ahead. So very, very different topics, but ultimately I think Seasons and Neon are more similar because of the transformativeness of the song, like starting somewhere or reflecting back on something that wasn't as happy or healthy, and then going into a new phase of life where you can look back and be so grateful for all of the shit things that happened, but see that now in this moment that things are so much better. That is a theme that you will find a lot in the album, because it's all about transformation. It's about being a butterfly, and there was a lot of transformations that I had to go through to get to a place now where I'm seeing a lot more joy in life and generally being calm and stable. Last question. How do you envision your fans connecting with Seasons on an emotional level? I kept it general on purpose, although it was very healing for me to be specific at times. I hope that you will connect to it in a way that you need to. It's a song that is not like, this is what it's about and you have to feel this way. It's like, I think it covers many different emotions within just the 4 and a bit minutes that it is. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, when you can take something that could mean many different things and relate it to your own life. I love music like that, and so I want to create stuff like that. I can imagine it's a type of track that you might want to listen to when you're sad, but at the same time you might want to listen to it when you're feeling inspired. I hope that the song covers all those bases. There you have it, guys. That is all about my single, and oh my god, that was heavy. Thank thank you so much for listening, and thank you for letting me share my story a bit deeper. It's really wonderful to be in a place where I can talk about these things, because when I was going through it, I just kept telling myself, like, one day you're going to help people, one day you can share your message, and that one day is here. Like, I literally was not able to share a message of light and hope and healing for so long, because I wasn't there. I wasn't in a position to give my side of the story from a healed point of view, but now I am. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to go through something so hard and come out the other side. And I really think these things are put in our life for a reason. I think service is the most important thing that you can do when you have some kind of talent or some kind of skill. If you can service the world, it's a dream. It's a dream for me, and it's a dream come true. Thank you so much for listening. I'm NEONshe, and please go listen to Seasons. Okay. Love you. Bye.